Morning, Antique and Garden Showcase friends, and welcome back. Glad to have you here. Just taking a look today at what's going on. This is pretty much the fall finish of cleanup. We had our first big freeze here, Zone 6B, Central Kentucky. The other night, it got down to somewhere between 28 and 30. So I had to run out here and even take in the chrysanthemums. So I'm going to kind of show you where we're at right now with cleanup and what's coming forth. So I do have the circle formal garden planted. It does have the ornamental cabbage between each of the boxwoods, which those last year lasted until February. So I got a lot of winter color out of those. And in fact, I just left them, even though they were kind of gone in February. I left them through March to kind of shade the pansies, which I do have pansies scattered throughout here too. And they actually protected those, so I had pansies coming up along with the daffodils already have planted around the center here. So I'm hoping for a repeat of those Oparis. I didn't plant any new daffodils in here, so I'm kind of hoping those multiply and we have more. So you can see I took the chrysanthemum out here. There's the drip tube. I did store those because we are going to have a nice week now following our first freeze. We're going to have a week in the 70s and lows in the 40s and 50s at night again. So I thought I'm not quite done with those. So I took those out. I took these out. I left the lantana up next to the front of the house. I thought it'll be fine because this porch tends to protect things. And I was right. It did its job. I don't see any damage on these. And I've put a little bit of the coleus underneath. There's some clippings I had, and it didn't even hurt those in the cold the other night. So these are fine. They'll last out through the rest of the season. I tore this planter apart the other day and put in cabbage and pansies in here. It's still hooked to the drip system. I did have to disable the drip system the other night because of the cold, and just kind of drain it and turn it off. But I left it because I am going to need it again this week when I put everything back in, because this is just when you have this urn, this planter, these two urns, that urn, and then I have two other spots out on the wall out there where I have chrysanthemums. All of those are hooked in, and it's just so much easier to water that way than it is to hand water all this stuff all the time. So that's where we're at here. I'm going to take you over to the driveway island. The sun is a little behind me, so you're going to get some shadows this morning. I'm going to try to turn as best I can, but the driveway island is completely cleaned out. So you can see kind of the form of the bed now and what it does a little bit better. I have the 3 plantings in here. I have the hydrangea there. Gosh, I can never think of what type of hydrangea that is, and I have the tag right under here, so let's look at it. That one is the Little Quick Fire. So that's a Little Quick Fire. And then, of course, I have the spots for the cannas in the middle that I just sink garden planters down in so I can pop those out. Made that real easy for me to take that apart the other day for when it got cold, because I didn't want my cannas to freeze. So I grabbed those, trimmed them all off, and put them in storage for the winter, and just cleaned everything else up, because after a freeze things get mushy, they're harder to work with. And I said, while I'm out here, I'm just gonna take it all out and be done with it. So this garden is all cleaned up for winter, and everything else is pretty much prepared for fall. So it looks a little barren, looks a little sad, but as I was taking it apart, I was actually planning for next year, which is the great thing. And I see things that I can do differently and make it better. And of course, this is planted with the top 100 daffodils from Color Blends too. So there will be a big pop of color in spring come up in here, I hope. So we'll be watching for that. And this is typical of what I do to the cannas whenever I bring them in. These are ones I had around back in the, not the formal garden, but the kitchen garden. And I just trim them off and bring them in and just set them in the garage here. I give them a little bit of moisture. I watered the pots just very lightly. And then every 2, 3, 4 weeks, I'll give them a little bit more water. And I store all of them in here this way all winter. I don't touch them until spring. Spring, I will take them out and divide them, and I've got videos this past year where I actually did divide those and showed you the process that I use for these particular things. Now let's take a look at a piece of furniture I'm working on for the booth that I'm going to polish up, and I'll have that over there later this week. So one of my finds this week was a beautiful walnut trestle table, and this has so many neat qualities to it. I'm real excited to offer this in the booth. In fact, I would almost be excited to keep this one at home for myself. But I've run out of room, and I just don't know where I would put it or what I would trade out for it. But this piece is so neat. It's solid walnut. You can see by the really pretty graining. And I believe, I can't find any joinery. I think this is one solid board all the way across the top. So this is a really pretty piece. I mean, just one solid piece of wood. It has a very neat stretcher on the bottom that goes from leg to leg and has this really kind of delicate rosette in the middle of that stretcher. I don't know if this would have been like a library table or what its purpose would have been. It's not that wide, I would say 14 to 16 inches, probably somewhere between 40, well, it's bigger than 48. It's probably about 60 inches long, I would say, just guessing. I've not measured it yet. But on the ends, the legs are really pretty. They have this nice shield design on each leg. It comes out to a foot like that. So this table, I'm just going to take some typical furniture polish, very lightly go over it, just kind of shine it up, make it look good. And this piece will be over in the retail space later this week. I don't expect it to last very long because this is a really super piece. It was almost like it was table week for me, and I don't know where I'm gonna put all these in the booth. I'm hoping something does sell over there. Otherwise, rearranging is gonna be a little bit difficult. This one almost is a typical kind of what they call a turtle top style, but it's in wood. It has kind of a French-like, more of a cabriole leg, but has some neat little carvings on the skirt, just very light little leaf carvings on each side, and that pattern repeats all the way around. It does kind of have a like a light inverted serpentining going on there. It does kind of cave in on the sides a bit on each end. Like the other, I'm going to just give this one a nice light polish and take it up there as well. I was really lucky this week finding some really pretty tables for the booth space. So these two gems will be in Antique and Garden Showcase Retail at Chestnut Street in Berea, Kentucky later this week. Well, I'm gonna finish up getting these tables ready so I can get those over to the retail space so they can be getting in people's hands. People can see them and look at them and enjoy them and maybe take them to their home and find a great spot for them, because these are going to be beautiful pieces in someone's home. I hope you're having a good week. If you're not a subscriber to the channel, we'd love to have you. Hit the bell for notifications. I typically do videos on Wednesday mornings and Saturday mornings, usually around 6:45 or 7 Eastern time. So have a great week, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.